Welcome to Clinton, Utah. My name is James Gronwald. This is going to be a video of my railroad, Denver and Rio Grande through Castle Country, which is featured back in 2018 for the NMRA convention. It's a HO scale, about 750 feet. There's over 300 feet of main line, and it's operational. So let's start here in Salt Lake. Back in 2009, when I originally started my railroad, I started in the back room, and it was actually an unfinished room. I had put some sheetrock up, and being the grandkids, we're going to build a little bit of a train because I like trains, grew up with trains, and really didn't have an era or a place I wanted to model. And so we just started building, and then I got together with a bunch of guys and they're known as the Friday Night Group. And they came over and we had some suggestions. We tore half of it out and we proceeded from there. And next thing you know, I've got this massive, gorgeous railroad. There was some negotiations along the way to get some land rights, but we got what we needed and my wife's happy with it, so it's all good. We're going to start the tour here in Salt Lake City Yard, which has kind of been the last phase on my railroad because I started way in the other room, and as we came across we realized we needed a yard to support the railroad, and it ended up being down here behind the stairs. So this has turned into the staging yard. It's probably a two-person operational area with the industries and the in and out trains. So most of the kits here I've assembled myself, and like I said, it's the last phase, so it's going to get the last of my attention. So after we leave Salt Lake here, we're going to go into the outskirts side of town. There's quite a few more industries out here on the main part of town to switch and operate. I had to have the chair factory. A good friend of mine, Alan McKellen, he had it on his railroad, and I started it and put it away. Poor Alan, he passed away, and I captured his, and it is on my railroad, but it inspired me to finish the kit. So I really enjoyed the scenery part of the whole deal more than the kit building. I'm getting better at the kits. The service station is one of the ones I did a couple years ago that has a lot of detail that is some of my better modeling. I've learned how to make sagebrush, and I like my sagebrush. It's actually 3M scrubbies ground up in a coffee grinder, covered with some real sage. So that was something I've learned to do along the way. The trees are super trees. They're made out of sagebrush armatures, and then flaked with the super leaves. All the dirt is dirt from right up here on the hillside. All my siding ballast is just dirt from the hillside. Originally, I wanted it to be a big city scene, and our little group talked about it, and we decided that just a little bit of town, low structures would be a little nicer than having great big tall buildings out here. And it has come together really well. As we leave the outskirts of Salt Lake, we kind of fast forward just a little bit across the valley and enter the canyon of Spanish Fork. Over here on the left side, there's a little parking lot. My friend Steve put the parking lot in, going down to the river. As I was modeling this radius right here and putting the river scene in, I had to find a picture of that I could use for what I wanted to model right here. And out of the book Rails Around Helper, I found this scene, and I really liked it, and that's what inspired this whole scene right here. Rob Spangler, he's done all my backdrops from here on across, and it's beautiful work. So at Spanish Fork, we start to climb up to Soldier Summit. And here we had a place where we had a nice big radius turn and a great place to put a river scene. And I am really impressed with the way the river came out. My Friday night group really helped do the Envirotex on the top, and it's just a beautiful scene. I don't know if a camera shot's going to do it justice, but it's really pretty. As you're climbing here, you go across this bridge and you work your way around the corner here to Soldier Summit. We put a nice little rock cut in the mountain, which is something I did myself. I carved all the rock on the railroad, and I'm really happy with it. An operator will come from the summit down here to Mill Fork and Spanish Fork. So he'll pull off the main line right here and cross over this little bridge. I've scratch built this bridge, by the way, and it's the first bridge I've ever built from scratch, and it came out okay. But he'll pull it off right here and switch out this gas power plant with fresh loads of coal before he proceeds around the bend here into Spanish Fork. As our train arrives here at Soldier Summit, I run a local out of here that runs down to Spanish Fork, like I said earlier. But there's only a couple little industries up here, but the operator up here is going to take care of whatever's here at the summit. And we have a gravel facility, and it's going to be hooked together with the gravel pit itself, which is actually an access hole to do the scenery in the back. So there's not too much going on here. Like I said, it's just for the local guy to run his train. Back in the day, they used to run helpers out of Soldier Summit down the hill, but now they've moved into helpers. Moving east out of Soldier Summit, we're going to snake our way along the wall here and go into this little canyon where I have my Colton mine. And if you look really close up on the backdrop, you might find a Sasquatch and a grizzly bear. And to the right of the mine is the Highway 6 coming over, and Rob has done a great job blending in the backdrop here as well. So now, as we come into the little town of Colton, this little town, I've done all the kits and the scenery. I've been putting a lot of time right here. It's scenic from front and back, so my mountain range here is the backdrop for both sides of the railroad. And if you're on one side, you get the back view, and if you look over from the other side, you get the whole street scene, which is really kind of cool looking. So in the wintertime, in the fall, the sun will come in this window over here and light up this mountain range, which is really neat in the wintertime, and I kind of gives you that real sunshine look on the mountain. So something to look forward to in the fall. Now that we've left our little town of Colton here on the hillside, we're going to pass Castlegate Mine and the iconic Castlegate. This was a fun little part of the model process for me. I like carving the rocks, and so this whole mountain range I was able to do cardboard strips with casting plaster and carve this whole mountain. The plaster itself, I painted it a tan color, and then I used a cement dye called Buff. I brushed it on really light fine strokes, and then covered it over on like the cracks and stuff with some Indian ink. And then I've got a little bit of chalk here and there on there, not much, but most of it's just the paint, the buff color, and the Indian ink, which brought it all to life. And then along the bottom, I was able to put a bunch of talus rock and stuff, so it turned out really well. Proceeding east after we leave Castlegate, we're dropping down into the little town of Helper. My wife actually grew up down here when she was a little kid, and I've always been inspired by the countryside back here. That was the big inspiration for modeling Helper and the mountain range here. But if you look to the left, we have Balance Rock up on the top of the mountain. It's kind of an iconic little spot for Helper. Helper was a service where they put the helpers on to take the coal trains down the canyon, so that's where it got its name. Let's talk about some more scenery here. The streets here that I've made are tile grout, and they are covered with chalk and highlighted with colored pencils. Leaving Helper, we're going to be heading east towards Denver, but we're going to go into a little tunnel here and bypass a few towns and jump into Green River, Utah. We reemerge out of that tunnel, and this is the town I have put together. Believe it or not, I'm really happy with this town. It used to have a pond right here in the middle, but I've got talked out of the pond, which was a good thing. So a few of the kits along here are not mine. Alan's chair factory over here in the corner, which was the one I really idolized, and when he passed I was able to acquire it. That's the one I modeled in the other room. The meat packing factory is mine, and the little machine shop is mine. The depot's mine. All the homes on the railroad and the church are mine. 3 little buildings up here in the front are Alan's. They really helped fill in my railroad. This little town has so much detail. The gas station was built by Steve Blodgett. We installed that gas station in one evening by ripping out the mountainside, dropping it in, and then replastering. The mountains here are the Book Cliffs down in Price. It took me 3 tries to figure out how to carve that rock, but I think I finally got the look I was after. We're going to take this outside track, which is the main line that drops into my Denver staging yard, which is underneath the peninsula, and it's just a return loop so that you can come right back out. At this point, I'd like to thank all the guys from my Friday night group for all their help, and especially a lot of thanks to Rob Spangler for his painting, Steve Blodgett for his modeling skills that I've learned, and Alan, who has passed away, Alan McAllen, for some of the models and the things I learned from him. I really appreciate that, guys. Thank you. In closing, I just want to let everybody know I started this railroad in 2009. I've had a lot of good friends give me a lot of great ideas. I don't think I could have done it without him. And I sure hope you learned a few things from what I've got done here and enjoyed this video. So thank you very much.